Should we get started? Ooh, my goodness. Want to get started? Good afternoon. It's 5 o'clock. Bar's open. Everybody get a cocktail. Well, that's the best part of this 5 o'clock time slot is that you can hang out with your drink and listen to people talking about cannabis. So it can't be all bad. Definitely. So thanks for being here. This is an experiment. This is the very, very first ever cannabis panel at Digital Hollywood. I've been doing panels here for 20 years, and last year I was talking to Victor Harwood, who's the producer, and said that he's got to start adding in cannabis to the conversation of Hollywood because a lot of my clients are in the entertainment industry. And so this is number one, and so you are making history right now. Yay! Woohoo! So I'm Caroline Rostigan-Bruder, and I am a PR and marketing strategist and consultant out of Laguna Beach. I also have 2 radio shows. One is a social cause radio show called Caroline's Cause Corner, and the other one is a Grateful Dead radio show. And I've been doing PR in the entertainment industry, culinary, consumer tech, and cause marketing for 20 plus years, and have been working within the cannabis space for the last 3 years, doing public relations, marketing, and branding with various types of clients. And I have an awesome panel here with me today. I have Susan Soros from CARE, Joshua Oden from Prohibit, Jim Louie from Red Light Management, David Costner from Counsel, our attorney, and I just poached Noah off of another panel. He is the editor-in-chief of Mary Jane Magazine, or Mary Jane Media, and I thank you so much for coming and doing my panel, because you belong on this panel anyway. So
no
it was
problem.
Like
Thanks for poaching me.
Divine intervention. I'm so happy. Susan brought props and some treats, so if you're good, you might get a little bonus at the end of the panel. Why don't I have everybody introduce themselves and a little bit about their background? Susan, go ahead and start.
I am the executive director of CARE, which is a 501c3 organization, and our mission is to raise the bar on what a cannabis consumer is. We want to be the town and country of cannabis. And so I produce a lot of different elegant events. There's just so much education that needs to be done. Yeah, that's what I do.
Thank
I'm
you.
The weed fairy.
She's the weed fairy. We'll talk about that later. Joshua.
Yeah, I'm the co-founder of Prohibited. I run all of the content and video content. My background is 17 years in documentary films, feature films, and television. And we're basically one of the largest video media networks focusing in the cannabis space. My focus right now is creating formats that can be licensed, produced and distributed through our network and partner networks, as well as identifying new talent and creating programming around that.
Thank you. Jim Louie.
My name is Jim. I work at a music management company called Red Light. We're the largest independent management company. We manage about 250 clients, many of them you've heard of. And I also run the cannabis department within Red Light, which we'll talk about later. Thank you.
Thank you. David Costner.
I'm Dave. I'm a partner at Counsel LLP in San Francisco. We represent innovators and creators, which largely include artists and writers and producers, and a lot of startups, which lately have been cannabis startups in no small part. I've been involved in also bringing certain entertainment brands to the cannabis markets, either as doing branding deals or investments or whatnot, and represents a vaporizer company and some other work in the business. Excuse me.
Thank you. Noah. Noah?
Hi, my name's Noah Rubin. I'm the editor-in-chief of Mary Jane. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the brand, but we run a .com that does about 400 stories a month. We do about 40 or 50 videos a month. We have an MCN of a variety of YouTube channels. We develop film and TV properties. I have a background in both more conventional media. I'm the former editor-in-chief of Mass Appeal, which is a sort of hip-hop, urban culture, street art media outlet, which is partnered with Nas. And before that, I ran the record label division there, which is also called Mass Appeal Records, previously Decon Records. We put out artists like Pusha T, Run the Jewels. I'm also have A&R'd for a lot of artists, including the Australian EDM artist Flume, who just won a Grammy earlier this year. That's kind of it.
Thank you, thank you. So as you can see, we have a real cross-section of any industry, of specialties within the entertainment industry, and now all of us are working in the cannabis industry. Quick show of hands, who's already working in the cannabis industry? Great. So I thought it might be interesting to talk about very quickly about what was your inspiration for getting into the cannabis industry? Was that transition easy from being in traditional entertainment, and the trajectory of being successful or trying to be successful within this new nascent industry? Susan?
My inspiration was I was a 33-year-old Mormon Orange County soccer mom, Republican, and I got an injury and I had a migraine headache that lasted 2 years until my neighbor who was growing cannabis said, "This might help you." And it did. And I vowed that once I raised my small children that I would do whatever I could to make people aware of what this amazing plant can do. And I sort of always was an event planner. I produced a feature film doing events and bartering with all of my vendors. And when my children were grown, I just transitioned into doing events with cannabis.
Great. Okay, go ahead, Josh.
I've had friends who have been growing since basically '95, since medical first happened, up in Sonoma, and probably growing prior to that as well. And so I was always a fan of the plant, and I kind of had a vision, not that it was my singular vision, but saw that there was an opportunity for it to get way past where it was at the time. I was running an agency, and at the time I really felt like the merging of technology, media, and then this amazing plant was super opportune. So 3 years ago, we sat around with two of my partners and worked for a year on the business plan and launched it old school, and wanted to focus on video, wanted to focus on formats, wanted to focus on original talent, and kind of bring that all into the fold within the cannabis space.
Great, thank you. Jim, how about you?
Excuse me, it really wasn't an epiphany. It was, I come from a tour background, and a lot of the artists that I had worked with in the past touched the cannabis world in many ways, and so we just started getting phone calls about cannabis events, mainly the bigger events, and how they wanted to bring maybe other people in who had a different background, maybe more of a concert festival background. And because our company quietly owns a piece of pretty much every big music festival in North America, events seemed to be a lane that we could run in cannabis and bring something of value other than money. So that was how we started in it. And then because we're a management company, we also knew that there were celebrities, what we call weed-ebrities, and that they create content and deserve managers that do what we do. So those were the two ways that we kind of started getting into cannabis, and then I deep dived in terms of getting to understand. And I also grow and smoke a lot of pot. So.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Jim's festival in a little bit that they just announced. David Costner, you can kind of segue off of that one.
Before I became a lawyer, I was a musician until I was 29. I made my living playing
Smoked
drums,
a
so
lot
I
of
have
pot.
a very, very deep connection with marijuana, touring for many years. And then I went to law school and had to pass the bar, and it helped quite a bit there too. But the odd thing is none of my clients or my artist clients are directly involved with pot. It was really, first of all, being in San Francisco, having friends, who are in the business, and being a connoisseur. But the fact is, these are innovators. These are people growing businesses in a new market. We started working generally on the IP side, licensing brands in some cases across state lines, so that producers in other states can then use know-how or brands and sell within their markets, and royalties are paid, which is completely legal, and it's licensing like you do with an artist or any other brand. So this was just a sort of a logical offshoot of our business that happens to fit with our relationship base. Again, it's artists, musicians, we know how to speak the language, but it's merchandisers, it's record labels, we have several clients with Jim's management company, and we have friends in common with everybody, but that's because we work in the entertainment space, which I just feel like it's like a multiverse with cannabis.
Thank you. Good. Noah.
I guess sort of as I kind of spoke to a minute ago, I come from a variety of different kind of media practices, and cannabis wasn't necessarily something that working in cannabis rather, obviously, because much like these guys, I'm a big fan of weed. I wasn't seeking it out, but it found me, and I looked at it, and it seemed like with Mary Jane, it was a really cool opportunity to do something that was in a space that was obviously evolving at a really rapid rate, and was an opportunity for me to apply a lot of my experience and the things that I've done at other media brands in a space where I felt like there was an immense opportunity to do something that was professional and intelligent and different than other things that were out there, and it's been pretty fun.
That's
Can I ask
awesome.
a quick question?
Sure.
Have you ever smoked a joint with Snoop?
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So Noah works closely with Snoop Dogg, and their I guess you call them media properties, and that's something I want to ask about artists and access. And you hit the the Holy Grail, but for other artists that are out there and other people that work with artists, publicists and managers, what's the access and what's the reality of the brand type deals that they can actually get within the cannabis space at this stage of the game?
Well, I think a lot of the other folks up here can attest to the fact that there's so many moving pieces at the moment, that there's not one preset deal, there's not one preset opportunity. You have to be savvy, you have to be smart, you have to be one step ahead. There's a lot of it's easy to just kind of copycat other things that are out there, but to really, I think, own a brand and to stand out and to work within the very ambiguous legal infrastructure that we're kind of subject to at the moment is really a huge challenge. So if I guess my advice to people that are either artists or artist managers would just be to try to just do things that are native to your brand. Just don't go cannabis tomorrow if you've never talked about cannabis before. You have to have a credible conversation and present yourself in a way that people that are in this space are going to respect and appreciate, because you're going to be kind of laughed off the stage if you don't do it the right way.
I might add, like with anything, if you can tie it into something that you really do, like Noah was saying, not just who you are, but Berner is a good example who wisely licenses his name. He doesn't touch the plant, which is legal. And again, it's a great position for an artist to be, because frankly there's a lot less risk and it's all upside. But point is that he created something, and then it's kind of creating events around it and releases and making a scene around it, rather than throwing your name on something and putting it on the shelves and hoping it sells. Because like anything, including music, if you don't go out and work it, so I think it goes part and parcel. And also the stigma, if you're not a weed artist, whatever that is, it could be good, it could be bad. And Jim was talking about that earlier, just the difficulties of putting together your festival based on the stigmas that exist in the,
So
whatever.
that is a great segue to a question I have for Jim. So Jim, why don't you tell the audience about your new festival, and I have a question about the artists that are playing your festival. And hopefully you can answer my question.
I hope so too. So we have a new event that we just started with Tim Blake from the Emerald Cup called the Cannabis Country Fair. It is our first entry into the cannabis event space. And it takes place July in Mendocino, the heart of the Emerald Triangle. And we're pretty excited about it.
So I'm really excited about it because it's the very first big management event, music festival company that has really ventured into the cannabis space in a traditional way with traditional artists. Because typically in the past, from what you see, it's been more of a reggae, hip-hop sort of lineup, genre, and tell them who's playing your festival.
Well, in fairness, we were late getting started, so and we also like to be respectful of others. So there's a folk festival up there, so we had to stay away from folk. There's a dance festival up there, so we didn't want to go to dance. There's several reggae events that take place in Northern California, and so we didn't want to step on reggae too much. So we were late. So. But the two acts that I had put on our wish list, we're only a 4,000 person event. The two acts that I had put on our wish list for headliners were Thievery Corporation and Portugal the Man, and we got them both. So that worked out really well for us. Now, will the legacy cannabis people be into it? Well, that's a good question. They definitely are into Thievery Corp because I've gotten a lot of great response from 72-year-old growers and stuff. But I did also get on Portugal the Man. Someone said to me, "Sounds like an act that someone from Berkeley who's not sure of their sexuality listens to," or something like that. And so I was like, okay. I didn't realize that was a sound, but. Now it is. It's an awesome band, and
Yep.
they have a new single out right now that's blowing up, and they're potheads, so.
We did something with one of the artists at a dispensary. They did a live stream playing the piano, so that was...
Yeah, they definitely are pro-cannabis, which helps.
So this is like moving the industry into more mainstream on that level in the festival world. Susan just got done with a really successful event at Coachella, which was the Green Oasis Gifting House, which, why don't you go ahead and talk about your experience in this is the fourth one, right? The third one. Okay, so what was it like working with the artists, the managers, not being associated with Coachella, and so not stepping on their toes? So what's it like being an event producer and, doing what you do, in the world of cannabis and doing it right?
The inspiration for the Green Oasis was, I was looking at, 4.5 years ago, I was looking at what was going on in Southern California on 420. Because everyone was going to Denver at the time, and I was like, that just doesn't make sense to me. And I found Coachella. I had never been before. And I was looking at their FAQs, and it said, one of the questions was, I'm a medical marijuana patient and I medicate daily. Cool? Question mark? And their answer was, no, bro, your medical marijuana card is not valid here. And bro was a hyperlink to the Smokeout Festival in San Bernardino. And I was like, fuck that. I'm going to rent a house and I'm going to invite the artists to come over and I'm going to give them amazing swag bags. And everyone told me that I would never get any of the artists to come by. But I did. They wanted to come and get bags of weed.
Yeah, I was going to say, free weed's a great incentive.
Yeah.
all these new products and, getting these products into the hands of influencers. And I just completed my third year. I had 7 NFL players, current NFL players come through the house, which was really exciting. I'm teaching 2 of them how to grow cannabis right now. They just got tested, and apparently the NFL leaves them alone for the year. So
We're testing you in 3 months.
yeah, no, not even.
Stay, please.
Here, drink this.
Drink this.
I mean, if they're smart, they're going to understand that their players don't want to have concussions. You know, it's really important. Anyway, so the festival still is anti-medical marijuana. And it's interesting to me because they don't mention any other drugs in their FAQs, just medical marijuana. So I'm curious to see what they're going to do next year, if they will ever embrace it. What's that? Yeah. I don't do any pre-publicity. This is just invitation only. I work with the agents and the managers. And the people that did a lot of pre-publicity this year got shut down. You know, they were stepping on the Coachella trademark and, doing things that weren't necessarily totally legal.
Well, I think that a lot of the people in the panel, and what we sort of alluded to a little bit, is, there's an integrity, there's I don't want to use the word sophistication, but there's a experience behind everybody, like your Green Oasis house is something that is very, like you say, town and country, even though it's rock and roll as hell. But, it's done right, and you're not doing it to make a ton of money. So this is the thing that a lot of people coming into the business just see dollar signs, and that's not the best way to enter into any kind of industry, because, yes, there might be a lot of money to be made within the cannabis space. It's not really the right initiative to get you into the space. And I don't know if any of you want to comment on that.
I think it's an uneasy alliance. I think if you remember, the Compassionate Care Act and everything that happened here with, when it originated was a lot of people who were small growers and they were giving it away, or they were donating it, and there was a lot of people over through the Oaksterdam founders who went all the way through the Supreme Court, I think, and people served a lot of jail time, and there's still a lot of people who consider themselves political prisoners to a certain degree in terms of being jailed for being pioneers in the industry. And then on the other hand, you have people who are, coming into, whether it's late in the game or they're coming here to make money, quote unquote, and there is this friction there. But the reality is everyone is needed. I mean, if you don't have an influx of money, if you don't have structure and organizations and bigger businesses who can partner with everyone, it's gonna it's going to be tough to scale things. It's going to be tough, I think, to get, the government and the cities to pay attention, because the reality we live in, not the ideal that we'd love to live in, is money moves politics, and money, big business, craft laws, and they're the ones that make things happen. So to a certain degree, it's whether it's an evil necessity or it's just the way things are always going to happen. In capitalism, it's kind of the way that it's growing. So
I just wanted to mention that he said people went to jail. People are still going
absolutely.
to jail. My friend James Sladek, do any of you guys know
Yeah.
James from Midwest?
James is an advisor to us.
He just got his check back from his asset forfeiture today.
No, it was just his personal, though. It wasn't the business money.
Right.
This is a terrible story.
But he just got charged today.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He's just sent me a text.
what?
He
got charged?
He got charged today. Some felonies. Today.
So
It's
It's a felony.
It's the state. Yeah, California. Yeah, San Diego. San Diego.
no, it's
Well,
in San Diego, and they raided
the
his.
reason just to be clear, the reason they charged him was that they wanted to keep the money. They took
No, but they gave him
$350,000.
the money back today.
Well, they gave him the $100,000 personal
Right.
that they took from his bank account,
Right.
and the $350,000
His daughter's bank account.
The $350,000 that they took from his business. They
own a dispensary?
yeah. Well, he
Yeah,
was a
this
manufacturer.
He was licensing the Bang brand.
He was he was manufacturing
He's a
for
distributor.
Bang as one of the primary suppliers for Bang. Basically, he was raided. They took all of his cash and
And this was
stuff.
about a year and a half ago?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, not really. It's the DEA that lives in San Diego with local DEA support and local state and local police support. So they all kind of collaborated, unfortunately.
Well, we love James, and I'm sorry to hear that. So, but anyway, we'll.
But no, that's a fair point. I mean,
It-
the point
it-
is there are people who are sticking their neck out, and there are people who are still getting. I mean, it's not all fun and games. It's not like, hey, I'm going to come in there and slap my name on it, and there's going to be no risk, and it's easy. It's still.
And still from county to county.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, it should. I think it was alluded to. Not everyone's making a ton of money. Talk about like all this money, but I mean, dispensaries have to pay a lot of rent to. If you're zoned in an area that allows, a dispensary, the landlord knows this, and they jack the rent up 1,000%. And you've got raw materials, you got taxes, you've got labor, you
You can't
deduct
write
any of
everything,
this.
yeah.
Right. I'm not a tax attorney, but.
Yeah.
So it's a mess. So if you're at Harborside is very well integrated or vertically integrated and it's interesting. The new state scheme doesn't really allow for vertical integration, while at the same time it was required under the old scheme. So counties are allowed to give exemptions, which has happened, which kind of makes sense for good actors.
with Harborside.
Which happened with It happened
I mean,
with
I just went to Steve's Grow.
Steve D'Angelo, who's the founder and owner of Harborside Health Center, which is considered the model dispensary for the country, and he owns multiple other business units that are extremely successful and models of their own.
He's the #1 cannabis retailer in the world.
Steve D'Angelo, he wrote a book called
Cannabis.
The Cannabis Manifesto.
Yeah.
Check it out. It's a very good read if you want to educate yourself on the cannabis industry and the history of the plant.
Anyways, I went, they took over a massive, most of the food and flowers in America are grown in the Central Valley, between Los Angeles and San Francisco. And a lot of these are going to turn over and become cannabis operations because you can make a lot more per pound, even as the price is going to continue to go down. You can make a lot more per pound selling cannabis than you can selling anything. So Steve bought an old flower farm, and it is massive. And they're doing it the right way. It's all sun grown. It's done in greenhouses. There's no supplemental lighting. They use about 30% of the water that the farms around them use. It's all done with organic methods, and it's really impressive. But it's also kind of scary. They only have one of the greenhouse is done so far, and you just have never seen. I'll show anybody who wants to see on my phone later. You've just never seen anything like this. 100,000 square feet of weed. It's just, it's joyous and scary.
It's beautiful.
Some of my clients have similar.
It's beautiful.
In Salinas County, they're all that, which really makes the point that if you're, and Harborside's not going to buy from mom and pop farmer in Mendocino, they're going to grow their own, especially because they can't write off the cost, of purchasing it from someone else. And so mom and pop, it might look, it's going to be interesting because the most industrious, the most efficient, and the best product and the best branding will win, and that means you just can't grow crap.
But
Thank you for saying branding, because this is Digital Hollywood, and as much as I love this conversation, I definitely want to kind of get us back to talking about with a convergence of the entertainment industry and cannabis. So I would like to talk about brands and content. Sorry to segue off of that. We could sit up here and talk about this all day long, because we really are passionate about all this, the entire industry. But I do want to stay focused for your benefit on why we're here, and that's the convergence of entertainment and cannabis. So Joshua, in terms of content, what's you guys, Prohibit is a entertainment company that does incredible content, and what have you seen is like the hot trends in content, and what do you think is coming next?
Well, I think Noah said it earlier. You have to come from a place of authenticity. You can't feel like, hey, I'm going to get excited about this and slap a name on it, or I'm going to hop into it because it's hot, and you may not know anything about it because you lose with everyone. You lose with the educated consumer. You lose with the audience. You lose with your fans. So, I don't know if there's any one trend per se. I think we're trying to look away from slightly going away a little bit from the obvious, which is I would say every day I'm pitched, it's this with weed, is probably my inbox right now. Hey, I got the show, it's this with weed. And sometimes it works, sometimes it's funny. Sometimes, the first show we did was a show called Pop High, and it was cooking with cannabis, but we wanted to make a twist. So the chef, it was kind of like a contest show where contestants would walk in, or fans or influencers, and they would bring random ingredients, and he would get pretty baked and then have an hour to cook a edible meal with whatever they happened to bring randomly. So it was kind of more humor versus how-to on cooking. So personally, for me, I like to try and focus on formats that can be consistent in scale. We don't do any news at all. I mean, very rarely, but we don't need to be another site that talks about what Jeff Sessions thinks about cannabis or what dumb shit Trump said today, because God knows there's enough of that.
What about Brad Pitt?
What about Brad Pitt?
But,
so are you doing VR in your productions now?
Yeah, we're looking into it. I mean, we're talking Dilated Pixels and a couple other people who are really, really specialists. And what I like about what they do in VR, it's not just walking around with the camera, which again, not to knock that, but they create virtual environments. So you're creating an entire universe, which is more almost game than, say, filming in VR. And I think that's really fun and interactive. Again, for me, I don't have a background in that. I know what's cool for me. So I'm looking to partner with people that are experts in this space. But yeah, I think VR is definitely going to have a I mean, you're going to get high and hang out and
Yeah, makes sense. It's a natural.
I think it fits well. Yeah.
Partnership there, definitely. Noah, for Mary Jane, in terms of content, what are the things that you're seeing, or trends and things that people are interested in reading about and knowing about? And frankly, we'll open up the discussion about celebrity endorsement and the celebrity piece of it, and new. What did you call them? Weed influence? What was it? The influence?
I think Louis called them weed.
Weedebrities.
Weedebrities?
Weedebrities, yeah.
I'm gonna give. That's Jim's word.
Okay,
Noah doesn't want credit for that.
Jim gets credit for that one.
That's a new Weedebrity. Oh my God, that's a mouthful. Anyway, so what can you share?
I mentioned this on my last panel.
But nobody was there. They were all waiting to be here.
There's a couple, but I was invited to become a bird by this company, Birdly, and you fully get on this machine, and you put on VR goggles, and there's a fan blowing at you, and you literally fly over the Manhattan skyline.
And
I'm pretty sure I don't want to be a bird, but I'm happy I did it once.
were you high?
Fly well.
Oh yeah, you could fully crash into windows and buildings, and
Was it fun?
I'm glad I did it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's cool.
yeah.
And then did you write about it?
I thought about writing about it, but I didn't write about it. No, I didn't need to be. But yeah, there's a lot of uncharted territory and a lot of opportunity, and there's a lot of ideas out there. So it's an amazing time, and I think cannabis is an interesting ecosystem that people are wanting to talk about. And so if you can kind of bridge the gap between innovation and this plant that is on everybody's mind and changing so many things in the realm of politics and health and culture, that's an exciting and powerful combination. And so whether it's kind of looking at globally established brands in the media space and the way that they operate and doing things that are on that level, or looking at people that are pioneering in the realm of technology as it meets content, is a similar realm in which I think there's a lot of very exciting things happening. We're at a really special time with a lot of different things, and they're all kind of coming together. And I'm really excited personally because I think Mary Jane kind of embodies a lot of that. and was one of the main reasons that I decided to sign on. So yeah, it's cool.
Great. Jim, you got something?
No, I was just moving the microphone.
Guys in the back, we started a little bit late. What's our time?
5:48 right now. You got 6:15.
Okay, because I want to take questions.
Maybe we should take some
I
questions.
want to take some questions. So yeah, why don't we take some questions and then we can just wrap up. We're a loosey-goosey group. Go ahead.
So I have a question. I'm a cannabis developer, content developer for Cannabis Publications, and I'm not seeing a lot of the entertainment changing and showing the diversity that's in the industry. There are 10 million users a day from all walks of life. We're not seeing that in entertainment. So I want to know what you guys are doing on your different platforms to change that direction.
So are you speaking more in terms of like on the grow side and the consumption side on the?
All sides, especially consumption. There's nothing educating others, and that's definitely going to change the tide of cannabis stigma. There's nothing saying that they're the average smoker is a 45-year-old white male. It's always showing some skanky black woman or something like that. So what are we doing to change the stigma in this new industry?
Yeah, I think there are some publishers out there that I think are going out with a purposeful mindset to specifically educate on learning, on destigmatizing, and destigmatizing either the cannabis or the consumers. The way I look at it, the way that I try to, from a content creator and who partner with other people, I think you just got to show normal people using it in a normal everyday act of life, and that will help destigmatize it. Because for me, I think if I think being very central or very obvious with it, being maybe sometimes overly dramatic with it, it kind of creates I don't know, it just doesn't feel for me that it hits home. So I guess what I'm saying is we have a lot of programming that we're either in development on or we're producing or we've shared where we're just showing people consuming it in everyday activities. Sometimes, they'll smoke it before they cook, or sometimes they're going to go out and do something. But it's just, I think it's just showing it as simple as you're drinking water. I mean, not that's dumbing it down, but the idea you're just using it and versus making a big deal about using it. And that's how I think it gets destigmatized, because all of a sudden you find someone who's watching it. Like, I feel like the best way to destigmatize, if I could get someone who doesn't smoke or who has bad attitudes about smokers, watch, laugh, and enjoy a piece of content and not even know or make it obvious that there was cannabis in that piece of content, that's a win, because they're going to come out of it and then, oh yeah, that person was a smoker, that's on the channel that promotes it, or you know what I mean? There's that. So that's kind of our approach. There's definitely need for education. There's definitely need for learning and all those other things as well.
Don't you guys think that Viceland, not to promote them, but I think that they do that even on their, I don't know what you content guys, what do you call those things where they're not really a commercial, but they
Interstitial.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, I didn't say I was smart. Yeah. So they'll come in and be like, "Hi, I'm Jim. I'm a dad. I like to bowl. I'm a computer programmer, and I smoke weed." And so there's a lot of that, and I think that helps. But I do agree that there needs to be more education. I do it with everybody that I talk to, in terms, especially because they ask questions about health related. Sorry, go ahead.
Wait, hang on one second. I want to answer your question too. So there is the 420 Games, which is an event which happens across the country, or I guess maybe in the Western United States, and they're sporting events to destigmatize the perception that the person who smokes cannabis is a lazy stoner. And it's every day, weekend, like people who go out and do a 3K, whatever, 10K, 5K, I think they're 5Ks. And it's just everyday people doing these runs. And those have done very well to help educate and destigmatize the typical cannabis smoker. To your point on, this is a little off topic, but to answer about the skanky girl, and that piece of it, one of my clients is a woman of color, and she is a 35-year-old entrepreneur, startup entrepreneur out of Boston. Her company is Ardent. And we were in a very high-profile magazine recently, and the photo that was used was so offensive of a skanky girl with buds, and it didn't go with the story at all, and we complained. And so there's going to take the people in the industry also, voicing their disgrace on that visual and that sort of branding. She didn't want to be in a article that represented what was being shown. Anyway, okay. Well, go ahead. You're next after.
So to address kind of what you were saying, I'm a professor in video, right? And comedy was the original way that we all learned about pop. Cheech and Chong, in essence, Reefer Madness was a comedy, right? And so a lot of the content
I might debate you on that.
Yeah, well, it is
In
now.
hindsight,
It is now.
hindsight, not at the time.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, comedy has been used also, and I can tell you as an educator, that comedy is also a great way to educate people. People learn more when they laugh about stuff. And yet all the content I'm seeing is all like reality show, but more boring because people are stoned.
I would point out Seth Rogen. I would point out, I'm going to forget his
But that
name.
wasn't my question. My question was, what are you guys doing about comedy? How are you bringing comedy into this?
I don't represent any
Josh.
comedians.
Yeah, I mean,
That's a
so
great one.
again, for me, we're trying to find new talent, people who have a point of view. Tell me, yes.
We got a comedy, cannabis,
Yeah.
reality show.
Oh, there you go, yeah. I'll definitely give you a card. But yeah, I think, so to answer your question from our standpoint, yes, the issue is reality show, docuseries, we're, sort of Heart of Darkness, we're going to go into this, sort of scary grow, and there's that sort of old stuff, and then there's the whole docuseries about talking about growers, and we do some of the, we do work with brands to showcase their grows or some extractions, but it is challenging. I mean, it's all driven by talent. I mean, that's what it is. You can't, I could sit there and tell you the coolest idea, and if you don't have great talent to drive the narrative or make it funny, it's not going to be good.
I'm doing a comedy on skanky women, actually.
Let's get this young lady with the tie-dye T-shirt.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, we just created a 13-episode female-driven web comedy about campus.
Well, there you go.
Awesome.
Talk to Prohibit.
And did you self-fund it and kind of produce it yourself? That's awesome.
Yeah, we produced
That's
it.
great.
Yeah, and it's really super diverse, age-wise, and that was one of the things that as a longtime cannabis advocate smoker, that's one thing that really bothers me is all the women in the nurses' uniforms.
Right.
And it's like, no, that's not everybody. It's not just the lazy stoner dude.
You're shattering it for me, man.
Bring me your card. I would love to talk to you. That's very interesting. I mean, it's fantastic.
What's the show?
Baked Goods, Goodes, bakegoods.com.
Bake and is it airing?
We just released it.
Well, congratulations.
Congratulations!
That's awesome. Yeah, good job.
Late, ready.
Could you talk about distribution? I'm also a professor, and some of my students just did a marketing plan for a company called Sagely Natural, which is CBD cream.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just killed because of limits on distribution. And it's here, and I know that things are changing. I don't know when they're going to change, but I would just like to.
They're changing January of 2018, actually, in terms of distribution.
So they will be able to distribute and
Well, they'll be able to go through a distributor. That was something that they had talked about earlier, and if someone knows more, actually, there's a lawyer here who can probably speak better at this than me.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
they just
Dave.
they would have to be licensed to create the product in the first place. Yeah, right.
And it's a
Yeah, I mean,
CBD.
distribution is
topical,
certainly key,
huh?
and there's a number of distributors out there, but like in the liquor business, the distributors are going to make all the money because they really control the network. So I think it's really a matter of finding and attracting with the quality of the product and hopefully some sales.
From what I know too, and it's still the Wild West right now. The next 6 months, it's like you can self-distribute. You can go and self-distribute your product for 6 months,
Right.
and then no one knows exactly what's going to happen in January. So it's a little.
Well, there will be licensing for transportation and
No
whatnot.
one really. It's
No
still
one
kind of
really
up in the
knows.
air. It's
Yeah,
being
yeah.
written. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
do this?
Yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
But actually, I just launched a site for a client about 2 months ago. It's in Santa Monica. It's called Kind Spa. KindSpaEvents.com is the website. It's a mobile spa built around cannabis. Basically, they come to you. They do a party with manis and petties and things like that. But there's also cannabis flowers, cannabis vaporizer, cannabis edibles. What they do is they charge X number of dollars for the package. But since you can't obviously sell it till January 1st, the cannabis essentially is free. So that's how they gave the loophole. But even getting the site up and getting into the payment processing, for example, which is my favorite story, because they have to go through 20 different payment processors, familiar with e-commerce.
So that's the big problem, is the processors.
We just went through this, and it was so
And
painful.
and every startup company is having issues with the process. I mean, it's the bane of the industry's existence is this processors.
I'll give you one provider that we did find that actually does accept payments, but everybody else like PayPal and Authorize, they won't do it. There's a company called Payleap. It's actually the last place we called out the entire list, and finally they said, yeah, we'll work with you. What's their name? Payleap.
Payleap, Payleap.
Right.
Payleap is going to get a lot of calls.
Well, no, there's some company that...
Yes, go
That's a
ahead.
2-hour conversation.
Exactly.
Lynx, anyone know of this company, Lynx?
Yeah.
This is another payment system. It's a little wacky for me in terms of how it all works, but I did meet them, and they seem nice. LINX. Essentially, they connect to your credit card or your debit card, and there's a $3 processing fee, I believe, per transaction, and you bring this versus your credit card or cash to the dispensary, and they take it. I have no idea. Let me see if I had glasses, it would help.
And then while you're looking, why don't you go ahead and...
So we came down from NorCal.
And who's we?
420 Television Network ran with them. They just got picked up distribution on Comcast, Verizon, Fios, AT&T DirecTV, Spectrum, 420network.com. It's 420 ETV. It's the first nationwide broadcast cable satellite TV network. We've been launching in the next 4 months. We spent all of last year, most of last year in Santa Cruz, Bay Area. We have about 2,000 customers and understand the business, and it's being positioned more along the lines of a discovery, medicinal, educational, with some lubricant of entertainment, funny-ish, but it's mostly focused on the medicinal piece, run more like a Bloomberg, CNN type thing with some pieces on comedy and whatnot. And then I bet one of your guys at Emerald Cup or HempCon told me about you guys.
Brian, or probably Brian. Yeah. He gets everywhere. Yeah. Cool. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good job.
All
Congratulations,
right.
man. It's a lot of hard
Yay.
work.
Go ahead, in the back. You have a question?
Right here?
Yeah?
Oh, yeah, thank you. So, I come from the Seattle area, and so cannabis has kind of been around for a bit. And I also have had a bunch of women networking startups, and one particular woman that was in cannabis. So, and it was a lot of fun to talk with her and speak with her about her journey through the process. She moved all the way from Chicago to get into the cannabis market in Seattle when it first opened up. She was here for like 3 months. So my curiosity is, like, how, I know there's some women in here who are kind of maybe trying to break into the market. How is that going to work? Because it's going to be new here in California. And how is that, how are you guys going to bring this all together for women in particular? Because it's a hard market.
Well, there's already women's...
There's Women Grow.
Women
Have you
Grow
heard of
is a-
Women Grow?
Definitely, I follow them on Twitter, and they do a lot of events, and they seem to, they just...
I'll
Yeah,
tell.
the events are great.
I'll talk about women. Yeah.
Yes.
So Women
Let's let the
Grow
women talk about the women. That'd probably be a
Women
good
Grow-
It's usually a good idea.
is an awesome organization. They have regional chapters in every city. If you live in a city and you want to start a chapter, you can start your own chapter. And the gals who started it really had a great idea, and they have great speakers, and it's men and women speaking. It's not just women, and they help women network and work with other women, which is really great. And just look up womengrow.com, and they have an annual event that is spectacular in Colorado. That's a sort of all-inclusive conference that's really powerful. So Women Grow, check it out. Yeah, you're welcome.
But they're, not to sound like I'm all great or anything, but they're, I believe the woman over here who had asked the question said that, most consumers of cannabis are male, and that goes double for the industry itself. So seeing more females get into it is a good idea because, let's be real, like the plant that we all like is female, not male. Yeah. So.
Right, and the other thing about the industry in general is that it has opportunity for people that are over 50, and that's one of the things. Like you've had a career, and you're aged out of your career for whatever reason. This is a space where you can get in and be an entrepreneur and really kick ass, and nobody can say no. And it's for men, women, all ages, race, color, creed, whatever.
I want to say, if you want to get in the industry, plan on spending 3 hours a day reading the news, or hire an attorney, and be realistic.
In terms of
what opportunities are actually out there.
Well, right, but there are opportunity. It's not age. It's not like going to some marketing company or a studio where they're like, yeah, you're over 45, we're not interested in you.
I think this industry needs people with experience.
Exactly.
And this industry needs people with real life experience, because we were kind of all talking about it earlier, and to kind of make it as concise as possible, there's two endemic groups who have been operating in this business for the last 20 years, and it's the growers who put their life on the lines in a lot of ways, and then it's the consumers. And those groups who were the first people to sign up with their medical cards and everything else are, when you say endemic, they're going out there and they're going to go through the pain and hassle of getting the card. And so, but the point is that they're a little, on the grower side, somewhat sheltered. They don't understand maybe some of the more savvier business things and marketing and content, and communicating with them can be challenging. And so the point is, people who have experience, women, men, people of color, older, should be welcomed, and I think are being welcomed.
A lot of those farmers thought they were really rich, and then they start I saw a guy a week ago get his first real paycheck and have a meltdown. He'd never seen taxes taken out of his pay before, and just had no idea that happened.
Yeah, that's a whole nother.
I had another client, who when I was talking about paying their employees, they were looking at me like, well, we give them a place to live and we feed them.
They get all the free weed they want.
And we give them free weed.
They just have to trim
I was like,
for
well,
20
do
hours.
you have workman's comp on those people? And they looked at me like, what is workman's comp? So
payroll taxes? What?
Yeah, so they were really rich when they were burying cash in their backyards, but now that they are getting away from that, things are changing. But, I spend a lot of time in Mendocino, and just to give you an idea of compliance, we can argue about how many farmers there are in Mendocino. Some say 20,000, some say 10,000. Let's just say it's 12,000. Of those 12,000 farmers, there's 340 that are compliant this year. So that kind of gives you an idea of where the market still is.
Well, it's like LA. There's, on any given day, there's 600 and there's 1,000 dispensaries, and of those, maybe I think it's 160 are Prop D compliant. 130. Well, there you go. Stand corrected.
Where do you get the numbers to the growers of the ones who are not compliant?
Come see me later.
Matt, over there.
Jeff Sessions is threatening to make it illegal. Right now, the states that have voted it are illegal.
Right.
And he's threatening to make it against the U.S. government. Does that worry you at all?
I think they got enough on their plate right now. I think if you ask anyone in business, businesses hate uncertainty, but they love chaos. And right now, it's pure chaos. So.
The state attorneys generals of those states have told Jeff Sessions, if you pay the taxes we're collecting, we'll talk to you. So he shut up. Arguably, the states change the.
Well, the rider's still in effect, right? So the rider that passed, there's a rider, I don't remember the name of it, but basically what it said.
Far until September of
Thank you.
2017.
Right. So it's got extended.
No, until September 2017.
Right. Yeah. I'm an optimist. I don't think anything's going to happen.
It
but that's
costs
just
a
me.
lot of money to
That's right.
raid things, and it was the states who historically did it in the past. So I don't think the FBI or the DEA or the Homeland Security. I mean, who's going to do it?
Well, that to
Meanwhile,
be
they're
said,
building a wall.
we have we all have a
So-
mutual friend who did get arrested and now is being charged. But it's county by county. It's local. It's city. I mean, if you live in a city or county that is not going to support Jeff Sessions and the DEA, very few things will happen unless they're trying to make an example of someone big. For the most part, if you're in Orange County or you're in San Diego, I maybe would want to look at moving somewhere else.
Yeah, LA is under attack right now. If you're not aware of that, you should definitely look up on your politics and get involved. The LA task force is, you should get those emails and go to the meetings. It's a good idea. I mean, we have no business in LA per se, but we need to support each other. And there shouldn't be 130 people that own the biggest market in the world.
The city of Los Angeles issued 133 licenses for this thing they have down here, how they do their dispensary licensing. Property compliance. Yeah, property compliant.
Well, and by the way, just so you know, of those 130 that are property compliant, they're actually not compliant.
Correct.
Probably 20 of them are actually compliant under Prop D. So they're all operating under a sort of, well, you got to fix all this shit and we'll let you operate.
And then in the city of Los Angeles and the county, delivery services are illegal.
Every one of them, and there's 300.
But there's $1 billion in LA, so it will be figured out, and it's not going to be owned by 20 people. So, yeah.
Last year, California made $16 billion in cannabis.
No, I don't think it was 16, but it was LA did $1 billion, 1.1 or something like that.
Is
So.
that the taxes they collected or that's the gross?
That's the gross, 1.1 billion in Los Angeles.
Okay, question.
So, I might have missed this because I was in VR panels.
We smoked before this, so we're in the VR panel now.
Because I was flying like a bird.
I'll make a comment and then ask a question. I can't say what because I'm under a non-disclosure agreement, but I was asked to review some episodes of a wonderful show on cable, and I'll have you know that integrated very seamlessly in this, they're smoking cannabis, they're smoking weed, and so something to look forward in the next season. Not, in one place they make something about it, but in the others it's just part of the world. But my question for you is that's on a cable, that's on an SVOD. I'm guessing that on networks they're staying away from any use of weed. Is that correct, or am I wrong?
Billions. PAC scene. There's been a lot of product placement and references. I mean, look, it
Weeds
depends
came
on
out,
the
it's like,
network and the time that it airs. Certainly, the mainstream, the networks.
That's what I'm talking about, like the ABC, CBS, NBC.
Well, what's Margaret Cho's show on?
Yeah, I mean, what time of day? 8 to 10, probably not, but afterwards.
No, NBC's developing a show right now called Buds for prime time.
There you go.
ABC is.
NBC.
Oh, I was gonna say,
NBC.
ABC, Disney,
would
I'm not
not,
seeing that, but-
definitely not do that.
I think Margaret Cho has a dispensary show as well.
I don't know what it's
And
on.
you
that.
guys sold Mary Jane to MTV, right?
True.
Yeah.
I mean, Martha and Snoop is not, there's no consumption on camera.
Yeah, can you just quickly, because we're wrapping up, talk about the Martha and Snoop show,
Yes, I can.
please?
I mean, obviously, we've been really happy with the reception of that. It's really about an organic relationship between Martha and Snoop that was kind of cultivated because of their mutual participation in the Comedy Central Roast series. So it's a really amazing thing to be associated with as a young media brand like we are, to have a property like that get so much attention. We're right now actually shooting the second season, which will be 20 episodes. The first season was 10. And so, again, for us, as there's so many different players and so many people with great ideas, for us to have that little thing that seems to be hitting well and people are excited about and we're able to have affiliation with is obviously an amazing and fortunate thing for us to be able to participate in.
Yeah. When does that air, that show? Do you know?
I don't have an air date yet.
No? Okay.
Not off the top of
So do we all know, do you all know what we're talking about? Martha Stewart and Snoop Dogg have a show together? Go ahead.
But I think that one of the things to keep in mind when you're talking about on television is, what the difference between dramatized consumption of cannabis and actual consumption of cannabis. Those are two different things, So the networks will do a show about cannabis, you know what I mean? But that doesn't necessarily mean there's actually cannabis being consumed on screen. I think that Doug Benson's new show on Comedy Central, High Court.
I think he has to go, I think he literally has to go behind the screen. I haven't seen it, but I think he goes behind the screen to smoke and then comes back out or something kind of strange.
So again, it's a world of workarounds.
Yeah, exactly. And so to learn more about the Snoop Martha Stewart show, go to Mary Jane Media. Where do the
Sure. I mean, you could go to google.com and type Snoop and Martha, and you probably find out a lot of stuff.
Trying to get you some direct branding.
No, yeah, I mean, Mary Jane isn't all about promoting those kind of things. Like our news operation and all those kinds of things are pretty separate from that.
Okay.
But there's lots of information out there about it, and it's a fun time at the very least. So check it out if you have time.
Awesome. All right, we're wrapping up. A couple more questions.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry, just to go back on what you said, were you saying that in that show they can't show the pieces of the smoking, but they are smoking? So, I just shot and wrote I'm Iranian. I shot a Persian comedy about 3 girls who trying to make their parents proud, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, they can't because their own shortcomings and they're smoking. But when I came to editing it...
That's genius.
Thank you. And when it came to editing it, I found I was going 3 different routes, right? So one way I'm trying to not offend my family and Persian people. At the same time, I'm not trying to offend. I was editing it for a cable network, so my question actually is also tied with hers. I felt we've had that 70s show where we know we're smoking, but there's a couple scenes where I had the bowl, I had them smoking. I ended up editing it where I held the bowl, you knew we were doing it, but you never saw it. And I feel like I could do 3 more cuts where it's funnier and funnier.
On cable, you got no fun. I mean,
is this a reality show or is this
it's actually like a mockumentary.
Yeah, you could do whatever. I mean, Breaking Bad was smoking crystal meth for 12 years, so you can.
Legally speaking, there's nothing wrong with doing that. I mean, there may be, again, in prime time on networks, there are the FCC rules that may be in play, but especially if you're doing anything internet-based.
The internet's my own thing. So I was wondering, is there any other platform or
cable?
If I do send it out, I felt guilty not to, and it's ridiculous. I already have your parental cultural guilt, and at the same time, then you have your stoner guilt, right? You're like, oh god, I'm not gonna.
You need to shrink.
Wait, you know what? We got to wrap up. The next event is starting. If you like this panel, this is the first one. Make a note back to Digital Hollywood and let them know that you want more cannabis panels. And thank you so much for being here. Oh, wait, and Susan has 420 bars if you want a little sample.